There were 3 things left on the kitchen counter when I came home. Her flight itinerary. A half-eaten banana. The envelope I never gave her. It had her name on it, Delaney, in my shaky handwriting. Inside was the note I'd spent 4 nights writing. No edits, just rewrites. Each version softer than the last. I never knew how to say things out loud, but I'd planned to give it to her when she got back from Miami. I wanted to tell her I noticed. That I always noticed. Even the things she thought were invisible. The receipts she hid behind the trash liner. The hotel bracelet she didn't know was still on her wrist. The way she laughed at texts, then flipped her phone screen down when I walked in. But I didn't give her the letter. Because on Sunday morning, at exactly 6:13 a.m., I got a message from a number not saved in my contacts. No words. Just a video. 9 seconds. Shaky hands. Loud music. Flashing lights. Her hair. Her voice. Her face. And her hand, pressed against someone's chest. Someone who wasn't me. The camera zoomed accidentally, and I saw her expression, like she was weightless. Free. She looked younger somehow. Like the version of her I was never allowed to see. I stared at that video for over 2 hours without blinking. Then I stood up, poured my coffee into the sink, and opened the kitchen drawer where we kept the spare keys. I took mine out, and I left hers in. I didn't leave a note. I didn't change the locks. I just disappeared. But not before putting something in motion that she wouldn't see coming. Because I'd been quiet too long. And quiet people are always underestimated. The apartment looked the same when I returned 3 days later. That's what got me. Like nothing had happened. Like she hadn't been gone. Like I hadn't vanished. No dishes in the sink. Candles burned down just to the rim. Even the throw blanket still draped over the arm of the couch, like she always left it. But I could feel it. That invisible shift. The kind you only notice when something breaks without making a sound. I didn't take anything big with me when I left. Not clothes, not my phone charger, not even the house key. Just my passport, a gray duffel, and the envelope I never gave her. But now I was back. Not for her, not for a conversation, and definitely not for closure. I was back for the camera. We had this dinky little nanny cam hidden in a smoke detector. Delaney insisted on it when we first moved in because she didn't trust the building manager. Ironically, it became the only honest witness left in our home. She forgot it even existed. I never did. I connected it to my laptop and scrubbed through every hour of her return. I watched her come back alone, roll her suitcase in, dump it against the wall, and immediately call someone. I couldn't hear the words, just the tone, excited, nervous, that half-whispered giddiness people use when they're still living inside the memory of what they've done. Then came the part one didn't expect. She opened the fridge, took out the champagne bottle I'd been saving since New Year's, popped it, poured herself a glass, and danced around the kitchen. Alone, smiling, spinning in her socks. I watched it 4 times just to believe it was real. I wasn't even angry. I just felt removed. Like I was watching someone I used to know playing a character I'd never met. But what came next gave me all the fuel I needed. She opened her phone, propped it against a mason jar, and started recording herself. A message for someone else. Soft voice. Tilted head. Words I'd never heard her use with me. And right before ending the video, she said, "I still think about your back on the balcony. That night was dangerous." Then she winked. I paused the footage. Rewound it. Watched again. Not because I needed proof, but because I wanted to memorize the moment she stopped being the woman I planned to marry and became the person I had to forget. And still, I didn't cry. I didn't scream. I didn't trash the apartment or leave cryptic notes. What I did was simple. I copied the video. Then I turned off my phone, pulled up the file I had prepared weeks earlier, and clicked send. It went to 3 people. Her boss, her younger sister, his wife. That's right. I had his name, his address, even his wedding date. I had everything I needed. Because disappearing isn't the same as running away. Sometimes it's the first step to making sure you're never forgotten. It took exactly 37 hours for her world to start unraveling. I didn't plan for it to be that fast. Honestly, I thought she'd skate by longer. Delaney was good at lying. She treated it like art. She could turn a confession into a misunderstanding, an accusation into pity. But this time, her talent met the wrong audience. The first call came from her boss, then her sister, then, finally, from an unknown number that belonged to a woman named Kendra, the wife of the man from Miami. I was sitting in a diner in a town 3 hours away when it all began. The place smelled like burnt toast and lemon cleaner, and the coffee was older than me. I kept my laptop open, the same window looping the same footage, Delaney spinning in the kitchen, laughing like the air was lighter without me in it. I didn't know why I kept watching. Maybe because I wanted to burn the image into my mind so I'd never miss her again. When my phone finally lit up with her name, my hands shook so much I spilled coffee across the keyboard. For a moment, I just watched it ring. Then ring again. Her face smiled up from the screen, the same one I used to kiss goodnight, and for the first time in years, I didn't answer. I let her panic stew in the silence she'd created. The messages started pouring in within minutes. "Curtis, please, can we talk? It's not what it looks like. You're scaring me." I didn't reply. I wanted to, though. I typed out paragraphs, deleted them, started again. Everything I wrote sounded too soft, too forgiving. Eventually, I just powered the phone off and left it face down on the counter. By sunset, I knew the video had done its job. Delaney's sister, Morgan, texted me from an unknown number. She said she didn't want to get involved, but then immediately wrote, "She's losing her job, Curtis. She says you destroyed her life." I stared at the screen, tracing the words with my thumb. Destroyed her life? No, she'd done that herself. I just handed her the mirror. That night, I drove to the motel I'd been staying in and checked out early. The clerk didn't even look up from his crossword puzzle when I slid the key across the counter. I loaded my bag into the back seat and started driving with no real direction, just following the sound of the rain against the windshield. I told myself I was free, that this was what freedom felt like. No phone calls, no guilt, no pretending to be the good man anymore. But I was lying to myself again, because every time I blinked, I saw her. Not the Miami version of her, not the liar, but the one from before. The one who fell asleep on my chest while we watched old sitcoms. The one who made me think I was finally enough. That version haunted me worse than the betrayal ever could. Around midnight, I pulled over near a lake. It was quiet, except for the crickets and the occasional splash of something unseen. I sat on the hood of my car, breathing in the cold air until my lungs ached. I didn't know if I wanted revenge anymore. I didn't even know if I wanted peace. I just wanted to stop caring. And then, as if the universe couldn't stand silence for too long, my phone buzzed again. This time it wasn't her. It was Kendra, the wife. She didn't waste time with greetings. She just sent one message. "We need to talk. You're not the only one he lied to." I stared at that text until the screen dimmed. The storm wasn't over. It hadn't even begun. I didn't reply right away. I stared at Kendra's message like it was a riddle, simple on the surface, but somehow bigger than it looked. "We need to talk. You're not the only one he lied to." I could have ignored it. Could have just thrown my phone into the lake and walked into the night like some tragic movie ending. But I didn't, because part of me wanted answers just as much as I wanted escape. So I texted back, "Where?" She sent me an address 20 minutes away. A parking lot behind an abandoned textile warehouse. Creepy? Yes, but I went. Because you stop caring about red flags when you've already been buried in them. She was already there when I arrived, leaning against the hood of her SUV with a cigarette burning between her fingers. She didn't look surprised to see me. Didn't look scared. Her face was pale, tired, but sharp, like she'd been living on caffeine and fury alone. "You're Curtis," she said, flicking the ash to the ground. "You look exactly how I pictured you." I didn't know what that meant, so I just nodded. "You're Kendra." Unfortunately, she took a drag, then exhaled hard. "He's been doing this a long time." My throat tightened. Delaney said it only happened once. Kendra laughed. Not the kind of laugh that means something's funny. The kind that means it's already way worse than you think. Of course she did. They always say it was just one night, one mistake, one moment. That's the only way they can look in the mirror afterward. She reached into her coat pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper. It was a printed screenshot of an email. She handed it to me without a word. I read it, then read it again. It was a reservation confirmation for a 2-person weekend at a hotel in Charleston from 4 months ago. My name wasn't on it. Delaney's was. "He booked it using our joint account," Kendra said, arms folded. "Told me it was a networking conference." Then he told Delaney he was thinking of leaving me, but needed time. Classic. I just stood there, gripping the paper until it crumpled in my hand. I had nothing to say, because every time I thought I'd hit the bottom of this betrayal, someone handed me a shovel and pointed lower. Kendra lit another cigarette, offering one to me. I declined. My lungs were already full of rot. Why'd you reach out to me? I asked. Because you didn't scream. You didn't post about it. You didn't trash him or her. You just vanished. That takes control. And I'm tired of being the one who waits for apologies that never come. I want to do something. And I think you do too. She wasn't wrong. I'd been simmering for days. No closure, no confrontation, no satisfying end to any of it. Just silence and half-truths and the occasional sobbing voicemail from Delaney that I refused to open. What are you thinking? I asked her slowly. Kendra didn't blink. I want to burn down the life he built on our backs. Not literally. I'm not a lunatic. But reputationally, socially, emotionally. Oh yeah, I'm ready. For the first time in weeks, I felt something I hadn't expected to feel again, a sense of direction. I'm in, I said quietly. We didn't hug. We didn't shake on it. We just stood there, in the cold, two broken people staring down a future neither of us signed up for. But we had something powerful now. We had truth, and we were going to use it. Kendra and I didn't talk much after that night in the parking lot. Not at first. There was something raw about what we were both carrying, and neither of us wanted to bleed all over the other. We exchanged three-word texts and sent screenshots back and forth like classified intelligence. There were no emojis, no small talk, just details, timestamps, names, places. What started as shared betrayal quickly turned into something else, an investigation. I didn't know what I was hoping to find. Maybe I thought I'd reach a point where I could finally say, okay, that's enough. I can walk away now. But the more I learned, the harder it became to let go. It started with Delaney's email. Kendra hacked it. That's not even an exaggeration. The woman used to work IT at a law firm before switching to finance. She had tools I didn't even know existed. VPN routes, data scrapers, inbox filters. Within 20 minutes of our second call, she had access to Delaney's inbox and cloud backups. And what she found made my stomach flip. There were photos, dozens. Not all of them explicit, but intimate enough to feel like a punch to the ribs. Her head on his chest at some cabin I'd never seen. Her wearing his hoodie, again, but this time in a room that looked way too nice for a random fling. One image had her holding a coffee mug that read his, while the corner of another identical mug, hers, peeked out from behind his elbow. There were folders too. One was named Offsite. Another was called Deal Recaps. But both were filled with pictures of them. Videos. Voice memos. In one of the recordings, she whispered, I hate how quiet Curtis is. Sometimes I wish he'd just scream at me so I could feel something. I listened to that line 12 times. Not because I couldn't believe it, but because I could. She always said my silence made her feel lonely. I thought I was giving her space. Turns out, she was filling that space with someone else. Kendra was silent on the other end of the call when I finally said, there's a whole life here. She had a second life. She's not the only one, Kendra muttered. You should see the spreadsheet he kept. I found a file called Travel Tracker. Guess what? It's not for business. Turns out, Delaney wasn't his only affair either. She was just the most consistent. There were notes, codes, ratings. I felt sick scrolling through them, like I'd stepped into a room I was never supposed to see. I couldn't sleep that night. Every time I closed my eyes, I pictured her on that balcony again. Only now, I knew it wasn't just a balcony. It was one of many. A series. A pattern. A truth she never planned to tell. At 3:41 a.m., I drove back to the apartment, not to confront her, but to see it one last time. The building was dark, quiet. I sat in the parking lot with the engine off, watching the glow from our second-floor window. Her silhouette passed by twice. Once with her phone in her hand. Once carrying what looked like laundry. I wondered if she missed me. Or if she missed the convenience of me. I wondered if she looked at the empty side of the bed and felt guilt or just relief. Then I pulled out my phone, opened notes, and started typing something I never thought I'd write. It was a post. A story. A confession and a trap. It began like this. My fiancé cheated on me during a girl's trip to Miami. I didn't scream. I didn't beg. But I didn't forgive her either. Instead, I disappeared. Here's what happened next. It would go viral, and she would read every word. But only after I was long gone. Because revenge doesn't always look like fury. Sometimes, it's silence, sharpened into a blade. I didn't expect it to go viral overnight. Honestly, I didn't expect much of anything when I hit post on that story. It was 4:17 a.m. I was sitting in the parking lot of a closed-down gas station off I-79, and I hadn't slept in over 36 hours. I'd written the entire thing from the rawest part of myself. Not polished, not poetic. Just facts. Pain. Screenshots. Dates. My name wasn't attached, but the details were too precise to be mistaken. I closed my laptop and drove off without checking how it was doing. I just wanted it out of me. Like bleeding out a wound you're tired of bandaging. By noon, it had 48,000 upvotes. By 5 p.m., someone had cross-posted it to Twitter, then Instagram. A podcast account with 500,000 followers reposted it as a live case study in modern betrayal. Reddit detectives started piecing things together. Screenshots, cross-referenced LinkedIn profiles, photo angles from social media posts. They didn't need names. The internet has its own way of finding the truth. By 9 p.m., Delaney texted me. "Curtis, please tell me this isn't you. Please call me. Everyone is messaging me. My job saw it. My clients. You don't understand what you've done. This is nuclear. You ruined everything." She sent 12 messages in 2 hours. I didn't reply, not because I didn't have anything to say, but because there was nothing left worth saying. She had spent months building a version of herself that didn't include me. Now the version of me she chose to erase was being seen by the world. And they were siding with me. The comments flooded in. Thousands of them. He didn't even name her and still buried her. This is the quietest, most brutal revenge I've ever read. The saddest part is how much he still loved her. Justice doesn't always look like fire. Sometimes it's ice. And then came the message from her boss. Yes, her boss. Apparently, she had shown up to work that day pretending everything was fine. Hair curled, lipstick perfect. But the whispers started the moment she walked through the door. Her assistant had read the post. So had 2 clients. Someone pulled the fire alarm just to get her out of a meeting so they could ask if she was that Miami girl. Her boss told her to take the week off. By the end of the day, it became indefinite leave. Not because she broke company policy. There was no rule against cheating on your fiancé, but because her presence had become a liability. People were distracted. Tension was high. She wasn't a person anymore. She was a story. And worse, she wasn't the one telling it. That night, I finally called Kendra. I hadn't spoken to her since the night she sent me the hotel photos. "I saw the post," she said immediately. Her voice was calm. "You blew it up." "I didn't name them," I said. "I didn't want to ruin their lives." "Curtis," she replied quietly. "They ruined ours." We sat in silence for a bit, both breathing slowly through the hum of our respective cars. "She called me 27 times, I said finally. Cried on voicemail. Said she was sorry. Said it wasn't what I think. That it was complicated. That she was confused." Kendra gave a humorless laugh. "Let me guess. Then she asked for a second chance?" I nodded, even though she couldn't see me. She said I'm the only person who ever made her feel safe. She didn't want safe. She wanted exciting, Kendra said flatly. "You don't cheat on safe unless you're bored of it." I didn't reply. I didn't need to. Before we hung up, she asked one final question. "What are you going to do next?" I didn't have an answer then, but I do now. Because while Delaney was drowning in a digital wave of judgment and regret, I had booked a one-way ticket. New city, new job, no social media, and I still had one thing left in my back pocket. The envelope. The one I wrote before she ever left for Miami. The one she never opened. And I was going to give it to her, face to face. Not for closure, but so she'd finally understand what she threw away. I didn't knock when I got there. I just waited. I stood across the street from our old building. Yes, our building, the one I paid for, furnished, bled into, and watched the windows, just like I had that night after the Miami trip. Only this time I wasn't a ghost. I was something heavier, more real. I could feel my own breath for the first time in weeks. And for once, it wasn't shaky. Delaney lived alone now. I knew that much. Her friends had stopped posting photos with her. Her sister had deleted everything related to the bridal shower. Her office bio was wiped. She had been scrubbed off the map in all the places she once thought she was untouchable. And yet, she was still here. Still in that apartment. Still moving like none of it mattered. Like she hadn't become the internet's favorite cautionary tale. But I knew better. That kind of shame doesn't wash off. It seeps into your bones and rots you from the inside. When the door finally opened, I almost didn't recognize her. She looked smaller. Not physically, but like the weight of everything had pulled her inward. Her eyes were tired in a way makeup couldn't hide. Her voice cracked when she said my name. Curtis. I didn't say anything. Just stood there, holding the envelope. The same one from before Miami. The same ink. The same trembling signature across the fold. She saw it and took a slow step back, like it might explode. What is that? She asked, eyes darting between the paper and my face. It's not new, I said quietly. I wrote it before all this. She blinked, confused. Before the post? Before Miami. Her breath hitched. I handed it to her without touching her skin. She hesitated, then took it like it was made of glass. She looked at me with that expression I once thought was love, but now I recognized it for what it really was. Control. Delaney always needed to know what page I was on. What paragraph? What line? And right now, she had no idea what came next. I didn't come here for forgiveness, I said. Or revenge. You already got both. I didn't, she started, but I held up my hand. You did. And it's done. You don't get to fix this. You don't get to rewrite it. She clutched the envelope like a lifeline. So why are you here? To return what never belonged to me. That seemed to hit her. Hard. She tried to speak, but the words clung to her throat. I could see it in her face. She thought this was the moment I'd beg, or cry, or ask her why. But I didn't. I let the silence wrap around us like a closing curtain. Because this wasn't the beginning of anything. It was the epilogue. I turned and walked away before she could open it. I didn't need to see her read it. I didn't need to hear her apologize. That letter was never for her understanding. It was for mine. Because what it said, what it had always said, was simple. I notice everything. Even the things you think I don't. But I loved you anyway. Until now. I left the city that night. New name. New number. New state. Delaney can keep the memories. She earned every one of them. But me? I took the silence with me. And this time, it wasn't empty. It was mine. 2 months. That's how long it took before I stopped checking the fallout. I deleted the apps. Changed my number. Started answering to Mr. Lake at my new job. Just a harmless alias for onboarding paperwork I never bothered to correct. Nobody here knows what happened. Nobody knows about Miami, or Delaney, or the letter I handed her with the weight of a broken future folded inside. And I don't bring it up. Because in this new place, this small coastal town with foggy mornings and bookstores that still sell paperbacks, I'm not him anymore. I'm not the man she betrayed. I'm not the guy who kept things quiet because he thought silence was a form of strength. I'm just someone who survived and chose something better. I found work at a small software firm, nothing flashy. No corner office. No big salary. But the people are kind. They ask how your weekend was and mean it. No one's networking. No one's pretending. My apartment is smaller, but brighter. The kitchen window faces the sunrise. I open it every morning. I've started cooking again. Real meals, not just microwave leftovers and coffee. I even got a plant. A ridiculous little cactus I named Miles. He's already dying, but I'm trying. And Greta, my cat, is still with me. She's curled up next to me right now as I write this. She never liked Delaney. I should have trusted her instincts sooner. Sometimes, I catch myself thinking about it all. The balcony. The videos. Her voice whispering things meant for someone else. And I don't feel rage. Or sadness. Or regret. I feel gratitude. Because if she hadn't broken me open, I'd still be pretending. Still shrinking myself to keep someone else comfortable. Still writing letters I was too afraid to read out loud. And the craziest part? I met someone. I wasn't looking. I didn't think I was ready. But then one rainy Thursday, I stopped by a local art supply shop to buy a gift for my coworker's retirement. I met a woman named Claire behind the counter. She has ink stains on her fingers, a chipped tooth she refuses to fix, and a laugh that makes the air feel softer. She doesn't ask too many questions. She doesn't dig. She just shows up, with warm tea, with dumb jokes, with silence when I need it. And I don't feel like I have to earn any of it. We're not in love. Not yet. Maybe never. But whatever this is, it's healthy. It's calm. It's honest. And for the first time in years, I don't feel like I'm living inside someone else's expectations. Delaney texted me last week. Just a single sentence. Do you hate me? I didn't reply. Not because I'm angry, but because I don't. I don't hate her. I just don't need her. And that, I think, is the most powerful kind of peace. Because when someone tries to break you, and you come back whole, but quieter, wiser, softer in the places that matter, that's not losing. That's becoming.